Today on Locked On Canadiens, Rumor Roundup is back. What are the Canadiens going to do between now and the trade deadline?
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to episode 1216 of Locked On Canadiens. As always, we want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day every day. As you know, we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you get your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $250 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. My name is Laura Samba, also known as The Active Stick, and I'm joined, as always, by the wonderful Ian Boisvert, also known as Maybe It's Ian. And Ian, I'm going to welcome you, but real quick, I just want to let everyone know there is a contest update in segment 3. Ian, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. You mentioned the words Rumor Roundup, which means I am not dressed for the occasion. I must change hats. This is another excuse for you to be on the YouTube feed if you're not already, because we're putting on a cowboy hat that's too small.
Yes.
For what is, I think we need this Rumor Roundup for a bunch of different reasons, and we'll get into that. But
First
yes,
of all,
ready
it's been a while
to get into it.
Yeah, it's been a while since we had one, right? The Canadiens have been playing really well. So the rumor mill has not gone insane, which is really funny because I find that the worse the Canadiens are, the more the rumors heat up, right? Or obviously when they take breaks between games or when it's the summer, whatever, rumor roundup heats up. But we've got to talk about this because there have been some rumors.
Yeah, I would say. So let's preface this with, I think that this is going to be, there's one rumor hit in this segment. And I think more than talking about the rumor itself, I want this to sort of serve as, this is what the rest of the season is going to look like for us, by the way. Like this is the sort of content you're going to see about this team, not necessarily from us, but from, the national media or other, type insiders. So this comes from Dave Pagnotta of the Fourth Period. He posts these like videos, like insider trading type videos on Twitter or X or whatever. I'm not on there. It doesn't matter. Basically, there was like a 9-minute segment. 2 minutes were dedicated to the current state of the Montreal Canadiens, where sort of played both sides of the fence, saying that the Canadiens want to add to this current team while also selling and adding for the future team. The primary objective is to do both add and sell. Stop me if you've heard this before, but David Savard, Christian Dvorak, Yoel Armia, Jake Evans are all generating interest around the league. Would you believe that if I told you that? I mean, these are really cutting edge stuff coming from this video. Adds that the Canadiens would like to keep Evans, but if his cap hit is too high, they won't. Again, really breaking ground here. Really, really brand new content. Mike Matheson's name is also out there, and would love to explore a Doc/Newhook type hockey trade. Not trading those guys, but the trades that brought those players to Montreal. Laura, why is this just, we're doomed to just live these regurgitated bullet points for the rest of the year, right? Like that's all this is going to be.
Until the trade deadline comes and goes. And then, part of what he said was also a Newhook or Doc type trade. So we're going to be talking about this up until the draft, essentially. I just really want to say something. I don't think that Christian Dvorak is generating interest anywhere. I really don't. I have a hard time believing that. Like, if Kent Hughes is putting his name in the group chat saying he's available, call me. That's one thing. I don't think anyone's calling him. I do believe that Armia and Evans are generating interest 100%. And I'm willing to believe Savard just because, he's the type of player GMs love, right?
Yeah.
So I'm willing to believe that. I do not believe that Christian Dvorak is generating interest. I simply do not. Also, I don't think anyone in the world thinks that the Montreal Canadiens want to part with Jake Evans. Like, they're not kicking him out the door. This is not happening, right? Like the Montreal Canadiens are probably listening to offers on Jake Evans because, like Ben Sherratt, he was a coveted, soon to be free agent, and the market, like is hot on him because he's useful, especially for players, for teams in a playoff run. And I would argue he's much more useful than Ben Sherratt. I would even argue, I would go so far as to argue that he might even be better defensively than Ben Sherratt. But all of this to say is that Jake Evans is the guy in the Montreal Canadiens organization. He is the guy this year. Like, that's the guy that people are calling about. That's the guy that we're expecting the biggest return from. That's the guy that the we want to keep. Like, we didn't want to part with Sean Monahan, but you kind of have to, right? Like, things turned out differently than we expected with Sean Monahan. We just thought he was going to come back and sign here again. It didn't happen. But I do think that, everybody in Montreal loves him. The fan base loves him. The media loves him. The organization loves him. Jake Evans is a useful player. Everybody in the locker room loves him. Like, I don't think it's a stretch to say that nobody's pushing Jake Evans out the door. Nobody's trying to get rid of him. Everybody just understands his value. Like, this is not cutting edge stuff.
Yeah. And, like Kent Hughes would probably say something to the effect of like, well, we don't need to trade Jake Evans, which is true. But he also said that for Ben Sherratt, which was entirely not true for Ben Sherratt. You needed to trade Ben Sherratt. The market was too good. The market overheated on a player that was nowhere near the value that he was going to bring in a trade.
Unfortunately, Jake Evans actually does bring that value. So there's a chance that the other team might fall in love with him and make him an offer he can't refuse.
Right. The other one I want to talk about here, Pagnotta mentions that Mike Matheson's name is out there.
I think it's because there are a bunch of Canadiens fans in Dave Pagnotta's mentions asking for Mike Matheson to be traded.
Thank you. That you took the words out of my mouth. I was like, there's no shot that like the Canadiens are shopping Mike Matheson right now. I think this is a bunch of fans who are tired of watching this guy do Mike Matheson things, for better or worse, on this hockey team. And I completely think you're right. I don't think that his name is out there in any meaningful trade speculation. I will say, I think Mike Matheson would make a lot of sense for the Vancouver Canucks right now, who could use some new blood in there, especially with Quinn Hughes going to be out for the next little while. I'm not saying he's a Quinn Hughes replacement, but he kind of brings the same kind of up-tempo play that you would want from a defenseman. That would make a lot of sense. They're not doing that for any, meaningful piece though. So we're not getting a Brock Besser out of that kind of equation, right? So
it's not going to be worth it for the Canadiens.
No. And I think I brought this up again. It's only the one rumor in this particular segment because I'll be honest, like a lot of the stuff that I usually go to for these segments has just been complete nonsense put together by aggregator sites with clickbait headlines that mean nothing. They say sources say this, and then you read the article and it's like some guy in a comment section wrote this. So it's definitely true. And we're going to report on it. I think that this is, whether or not Dave Pagnotta is correct here is entirely irrelevant. This is the blueprint for the rest of the season into the summer for this team. These are the conversations we're going to be having. They're going to buy, they're going to sell. The unrestricted free agents are going to be a topic of conversation until they are A, traded, or B, not re-signed. Mike Matheson is going to continue to be a point of contention, for this fan base, regardless of whether or not the team is actually entertaining the idea of trading him. Jake Evans is going to be top among that list. And we're always going to be looking at a Doc/Newhook type trade to bring in another young player at the end of their entry-level contract. So, to me, it was 2 minutes of this segment that, we kind of already knew all of this, and it's just going to be regurgitated at us for the next 3 or 4 months
by every single insider. And I will say one thing though, to my knowledge, Dave Pagnotta is more connected to players. So it could be Christian Dvorak calling him, being like, "I want to get out of here." He went for drinks with Christian Dvorak or something like that, and Christian Dvorak's like, "I want to get out." That there's also that possibility, because all these insiders, some of them have sources that you have no idea. Like, it could be the agent, it could be players, it could be the coaches, it could be anybody, right? It could be like your cousin is like the equipment guy for a particular team, right? But all these insiders have different sources, and some of these sources, I know for a fact, have fed different insiders different information.
Right.
I don't know if it was a test or if it was just for fun. I have no idea. But I know for a fact because I've watched it happen, and then the source giggling and getting so excited about it. So we always have to take this with a grain of salt. And it's true that there's always talk out there, but the rumor roundups that we consider are from sources we would consider hockey media in whatever shape or form.
or they swing so far in the other direction, and we are just playing the entertainment yeehaws and not the realism yeehaws. So speaking of that, we have to give our ratings to
I was
this.
going to say, we didn't do yeehaws.
We didn't. We got so lost in the sauce. It happens
Yes.
from time to time.
Um,
Entertainment yeehaws. Where are you putting this at?
0.
Yeah, same. It's gonna, and not only because we have read it a bunch before this particular usage of these bullet points, but we're going to read it a bunch in
This
the
is going to be
coming
our
weeks and months.
everyday. Like,
Yeah.
once a week
Realism
we're gonna
though.
have this.
Let realism yeehaws.
Realism, I would give it like it's out of 5. Let's say 3 out of 5 because I don't believe the Matheson part and I don't believe the Christian Dvorak part, but the other stuff does make sense.
Yeah, I think Christian Dvorak's name is out there. I just don't know if it's other teams asking for Christian Dvorak. That's not to say he's been bad. He's been fine. He's a perfectly
cromulent,
as Scott would say, a perfectly cromulent, bottom 6 forward.
Yes.
So yeah, that's our rumor roundup for this time around. Sorry it took so long to get another one of these out, but we wait for the good ones, and the good ones were not coming, so we made do with what we had.
Exactly. We need like a really juicy one that's like, like Mike Matheson is being traded for like Connor McDavid or something.
Yeah, something good. I have the big hat. I have the big yellow cowboy hat that I'm waiting to break out for. That is a break glass in case of emergency hat, and we are not there yet. So we need that.
It's massive.
And you'll get the big hat.
Yes. Speaking of big hats, though, Joshua Roy would like to wear a new one, or at least a very new jersey. And we're going to talk about what he's going to need to do to get back into the mix and all kinds of other mailbag questions from all of you. That's coming up in just one moment here on Locked On Canadiens. But first, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You hear us talk about FanDuel a lot, and that's because it is America's #1 sportsbook. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a win. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. It's absolutely thrilling. But FanDuel also has bets for the NHL, NFL, which players will score, all kinds of stuff, how many points. And it's so easy to use. I find it so easy to use. It is a one-stop shop for all kinds of sports betting. You can visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And us. All right, we have a packed mailbag. I just want to say something. I love our listeners so much. I really do. I just we'll do a contest update a little bit later in the show, but like compiling the entries, like reading the comments, just like watching you guys interact, and like I really truly like one of the things that warms my heart so much is seeing comments in French, which I really love. Like it's a huge honor for people who are more at ease in French to be listening to us in English. So, un gros merci à vous tous. And please keep it coming. And, I speak French. I can respond to your comments in French. So there we go.
All right. Can read them. I will not be able to respond in French. I'm sorry. It's not strong enough. I do need to get back into it though, so I can at least feel a little bit more connected with that side of this entire market. So
yes,
thank you. It always means a ton, especially if it's in a language I don't understand. That's always nice to see.
All right, so we have some mailbag questions this week. I think we took a couple weeks off, right? Like, is it just because we were on holiday? I have no idea. Anyways.
Yeah, I don't know what day it is anymore.
The holiday period, time has no meaning.
Yeah, it's all a liminal space. None of it matters. All right.
Yes.
But we do have a lot of mailbag questions. We'll start with Nathaniel Hers on Blue Sky, who asked Joshua Waugh ? Which is a great way to start any question, sending it in about this team. What does he need to show to get a shot? Where should he slot in this year or next? If management isn't sold on him now, should they move on this season or let him cook in Laval longer? Where are you at on Joshua Waugh right now, Laura?
I think it's all in Joshua Raw's hands. I think it's 100% in his hands. He needs to show more. I think he needs to show more off-ice discipline and conditioning. I think they are kind of not too happy with his efforts on that front. And in Laval too, he's not showing a lot. I don't really know why, because we know that he's more than capable of it. But I think with a little bit of self-discipline, a little bit of effort, I think he can play himself back into the conversation. I do think that if he does do so, the time to do it is now, because the trade deadline is coming up. And either what's going to happen is the Canadiens are going to trade someone away and you're going to have to replace them on the lineup in the Montreal Canadiens, or you're going to get a shot in another organization. So you really do need to shape up, and you need to show what the Canadiens organization, what you've got. If they're not happy with the direction you're going in, you're going to get traded. But now is the time. If you want to stay here, and if you want to be a Montreal Canadien and you want all of the benefits that come with being a homegrown player in this market, you absolutely 100%, 1000% need to take it seriously. And I think that's the problem there, is that he hasn't had that self-discipline and he has not taken it seriously.
Yeah, and I think the challenge at this point is, where do you put him? Even if let's play the game where Joshua Roy is playing fantastic hockey in Laval. He shouldn't be in Laval. Where are you putting him?
You're putting him on the third line.
The third line that's been really good?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of bad timing for him if he were to be playing great right now, which he isn't. He's playing fine.
Yeah, he would have to be replacing somebody that gets traded away on that third line.
Right, exactly. Or the fourth line, and they don't want to put him on the fourth line. They'd rather have him playing 20 minutes a night in Laval, playing in a high offensive role. So
Absolutely.
to Nathaniel's question, let him cook. Like, let him cook in Laval. I have no problem leaving him there. If someone gets hurt in the top six, yeah, call him up so that you can leave the bottom six intact and you can give him an opportunity. But I really struggle with it because and we'll get to it in this next question. The bottom six has been so good. Like, you can't touch it. Like, you can't touch anything that's going on in those bottom two lines.
Yeah. And I would argue the top two lines are finding their place too.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And that's bad news for Joshua Roy, the NHL player at this moment in time.
Yeah.
Right.
He's Joshua Roy, the AHL player, until further notice, basically.
Correct. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Jeff the Red asks, what do you see as the biggest difference in the Canadiens' play that has led to their recent success? What players have been their biggest factors? For me, I just mentioned it. It's the bottom six. And the reason I mentioned the bottom six is because Nick Suzuki, and I know that sounds silly, but hear me out. Nick Suzuki's time on ice in his last 5 games, 18-19, 18-28, 16-36, 21-22, 16-18.
Which 4 is out of the 5.
Yes, we're not burning out Nick Suzuki. Like, if you want him to get to that point per game pace, he cannot be playing 23 minutes a night, every night in and night out.
Sometimes 26.
Right. It cannot happen. So the fact that, like, he doesn't penalty kill unless they absolutely need him to right now. Like, Christian Dvorak took a penalty in the last game and he had to penalty kill because right now it's Dvorak on one unit and Evans on the other unit.
Yeah.
Or, Josh Allen. Josh Anderson takes a penalty, which he often does. He leads the team in minor penalties. Like, then Suzuki's penalty killing. But because those guys have, well, first of all, have been very well behaved for what it's worth, but also because they're playing super well, you can roll 4 lines at even strength and feel really good about it. So, like, to me, that's what's mattered the most, is keeping the top lines fresh by having 4 lines you could roll out there at any given time.
And I think that's a huge factor. I also think that the Canadiens have figured out a way to extrapolate from the penalty kill and survive longer when they are in their own zone. I'm still not 100% sold yet. I think Carrier is making a huge difference, a massive difference there. But I still think, and again, and it's not just because, he replaced Justin Barron. It's also because, goalie gets to play on his correct side. It's also, Mike Matheson hasn't had those brain fart games in a few games, right? It's all coming together. So I think that that's like a huge part of it as well. But when you allow all of these players, whoever they are, whether it's your Kirby Dach, your Patrick Laine, your Nick Suzuki, your Cole Caulfield, your Juraj Slafkovsky, when you allow those players to do the things that they're actually good at, and you don't ask of them things that they aren't good at, like, look at how well it comes together, right? And so a large factor, and we have to knock on wood, Ian, you better be knocking on wood on your side too, is that they have been healthy,
Yeah.
So we can't discount the importance of that. And I think the problem is with the Canadiens is that they still don't have that depth to make up for the elite talent that they might be losing to injury, right? So that's a huge factor. But, like, health is a big one. They're playing better defensively. Like, everyone who is on the ice is committed to their assignment, understanding their assignment. Like, it's not a meme. It's like they're actually doing it. They understood the assignment. And the fact that they're able to do those things that they're good at, I think is important. And the fact that you're not trying to shoehorn players that don't fit into roles they
Yes.
cannot do. That's so important, because any team that isn't good, that doesn't have depth, that doesn't have talent, they're always doing that with players. It's like, well, we have to put this guy on the penalty
Right.
kill because we don't have any other better people, right? Whereas now what they've done, and they've managed to find something useful
Right.
in Alex Newhook. They've managed to find, and this is so crucial, Josh Anderson. They've managed to make Josh Anderson a worthwhile, useful player the entire time that he's on the ice, right?
Yeah, and you make it's such a great point. I was thinking about this earlier today. How many players on the current Montreal Canadiens are playing out of their depth, out of their comfort zone? I can name two. Jakob Dobish, they just called him up. That makes sense, right? He's brand new. And Mike Matheson, because he's playing the wrong side.
Yeah.
That's
he's
it.
managing too.
And he's doing fine.
Yeah.
He's doing fine given the circumstances. So your point is so well met, that they finally have the roster that they intended to have. Everybody's in the spot they intended to be in, and they're cooking. Like that matters a lot in the grand scheme of things. Like, we don't have to have, I don't know, Arbor Xhekaj out there on a 5-on-3 power play, which we saw a few years ago. That shouldn't happen.
Because you should have the personnel that can actually play on the power play, on the 5-on-3 power play. All right. So that's going to be it for this particular segment, but we have tons more mailbag coming up, and a contest update, and that's going to take place in just one moment here on Locked On Canadiens. But first, I want to talk to you a little bit about Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about that you were paying for twice? That's definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future. No more stressing out about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, a very quick contest update. So if you were with us earlier last month, I would say, we have a contest for our listeners. If we were in your Spotify Wrapped, or if you left us a review, we were giving away Ian's 13x11 picture. We are still giving it away. We haven't changed our minds, but I did want to say that in the show notes, all on audio or on YouTube, in the show notes, there is a link to a Google Sheet. In that Google Sheet, I have entered the first name and last initial of every person that I found who has entered the contest, plus the way that you've entered it. So whether you entered it on Gmail, on Instagram, Blue Sky, whatever. So I would like everyone to take a look and make sure that their name is accounted for. And if it's not, just let me know. Laura, I sent this to you on December 2nd or December whatever via Gmail. Can you please double check? My name is not on that Google Sheet. Once we've ascertained that everyone is good, we're going to give you guys 3 episodes to do it. So next week on Wednesday, we're going to draw. So on Wednesday night for the Thursday episode. So we're going to do the draw on the Wednesday night, so it'll show up in the Thursday episode. So make sure that you let me know before then if you're not accounted for. And so, yeah, that was it. And I did want to say thank you again to all our listeners. Like, my heart is like it's grown a million sizes so much the past couple of weeks. We love you guys all so much. And we really want one of you to get this picture. And Ian is partying with Precious Habs memorabilia. That's I want to point that out.
I'm cherishing my last moments with it. So I'm glad it will go to a good home. At least I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, should we jump back into our mailbag?
Absolutely.
All right, let's do it. This one from Molitars.
Mm-hmm.
First, Happy New Year to you both. Happy New Year to you as well, Molitars. Do you see a scenario where Christian Dvorak is re-signed for 25-26? Despite having bricks for hands, his on-ice presence has been impactful as a PK and face-off specialist. For example, his plus-minus is only -5 to the team's -14. He's also part of the Curtsy Club, which tells me losing him would possibly have negative impact on the locker room. That, to me, I don't know if it's called the Curtsy Club. If it is, thank you for telling me that, Molotars. But to me, that's the power of friendship club. Like they win with the power of friendship every time they do that. Almost everyone I listened to or read have completely written him off when his contract expires. If Jake Evans is traded or just not re-signed, I think Devo stays as 4C. If that were actually to happen, what would the contract look like? What are your thoughts on Dvorak staying in Montreal past this season?
What about Owen Beck is my question.
To me, he's Owen Beck insurance.
Yeah.
Right? It's because next year we're expecting another step forward.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can't make that step because Owen Beck doesn't get off to the right start that he needs to, you need somebody there, right? And I know like people are going to say, well, Oliver Kapanen's like in the same boat. You notice how Oliver Kapanen was here this year and then they sent him away so he could actually go play?
Yeah.
Like Oliver Kapanen is the same guy in my estimation.
Yeah.
I think if Jake Evans is gone, they're banking on one or two of those guys hitting. But if one of them misses, you need someone like Christian Dvorak to at least wear it for a little bit.
Because here's the thing, though. Like, if you have, like, in my mind, this entire time, I didn't think that Jake Evans was going to have the year that he had. This entire time, like, they had made peace with parting with Jake Evans. And Christian Dvorak was not in the plans anyway. And so your guys were going to be Owen Beck and Oliver Kapanen. Like, that's who was going to replace both of those guys, right? So now Jake Evans, like, I think, has made a case for him to stay as part of this organization, has made a case to either come back as well. Like, I think he's happy here. I don't think that, we can discount that. But I don't know necessarily that they thought that Jake Evans was going to be here forever before.
No, I don't think so either. Because I mean, we were looking at Jake Evans with the lens of last year and the beginning of this year's Jake Evans, which is still a very effective forward, right?
Yeah,
but it's not
he's
this
always
guy.
been useful. Yeah,
yeah, but it's not this guy. It's not the guy we've been watching the last little while, who has like made the fourth line a legitimate scoring threat every time they have the puck, which is kind of wild to think about.
Yeah, and I think also leading up to like the coward Mark Scheifele, like he was showing this
for sure,
right? That's why he got that hit. So
yeah. Let's move on. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly. I'll say Muggsy OD on Blue Sky. Hi, Ian and Laura. I listen to your podcast every morning on the way to work. Thank you so much. Do you guys think Lane can win the Calder this year? Why or why not?
I think he can. I think he absolutely can. The only reason why not would be because the media is not paying enough attention to him. It's really that. It's like there's not enough buzz about him outside of this market. And that's the problem, because I think that he has displayed a level of maturity. He's displayed a level of talent that is a Calder winning caliber talent.
Yeah, I think it's a 3-horse race right now. It's Macklin Celebrini out in San Jose, who has missed some time due to injury, but in the time he has played, he's been excellent. It's Matvei Michkov in Philadelphia, who wasn't scoring to start and has been very, very good since then. And then Lane Hutson. I think at the end of the year, you'll see those three guys nominated. It's just a matter of how much hype the national media gives to a guy like Lane Hutson, who comes in without the pedigree that
Macklin Celebrini has.
Macklin Celebrini has, being first overall, or Matvei Michkov coming in at 5th overall, even though he probably should have gone much higher given the type of player that he is, even though we know now he kind of played his way to Philadelphia because that's where he wanted to play. And it's, like nothing but respect to a dude for figuring out how to do that.
Yeah.
I think it's entirely possible he wins the Calder. These are the keys for me. He has to stay healthy, which, to this point he has, and knock on wood, I think he will. He has to continue to put up points, and I think he has to add goals. He has to figure out ways to find more goals in order for him to find that. But to me, the Calder isn't what's important for Lane Hutson. To me, it's, and I've mentioned it on the last few episodes, the leading rookie defenseman season in Montreal Canadiens history. 64 points. You can go get it. That to me means more than like the national, these guys who watched 3 Montreal Canadiens games all year get to decide who wins this Calder Trophy. That's to me is kind of whatever. The awards are a mess, but that's, in my estimation, what I'm looking for.
And I think what's key here is that if the Montreal Canadiens are good and everyone starts taking notice, like if they stay in the mix, they're back in the mix now. If they stay in the mix and everyone takes notice, he's got a better shot. Because San Jose, like, Macklin Celebrini is must-see television. But so is Lane Hudson. Like, he's must-see too, right? So, like, I think that's a big thing. So I do feel like, the Canadiens can play him back into the conversation a little bit as well.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think he plays defense, which is the hardest position of the three of them.
Yeah.
Of the three of those guys to play.
Yeah.
It means it caps his offensive upside quite a bit, but it also means he's playing 21 minutes a night on the first defensive pair for the Montreal Canadiens. Like, it's kind of, we have to keep putting it into that context of this guy's playing like an NHL veteran amount of time and like opponents. Like, that's what he's doing on a nightly basis. So we had a lot more questions. We're going to save them for next week's mailbag. So your question did not get sent in vain if we didn't do it. So
but we do have an email from Claude.
Yes, I did want to read Claude's. This was the totality of Claude's email. Hi guys, Jakub Dobiš has never been scored on in his entire NHL career. Hall of Famer. To which I say yes, Claude. He is a Hall of Famer.
Legend.
One of the best goalies of all time. All right, let's do our trivia and then head out of here for the week. So yesterday's question was with the Vegas win, Sam Montembeault has only not won against 4 teams. Which are they? I'll give Marku888 on YouTube partial credit. He got 2 of them, Carolina and Utah. The other 2 are Calgary and Montreal. He has not beaten Montreal. He's only played them once, and then he ended up over here. So Sam Montembeault, we are waiting on those. All of those, I think, can still be achieved this season. So things to watch
Montreal.
for. Well, not Montreal. That one's probably going to stay for a long time, if not forever. All right. Today's question, in honor of Montreal playing Chicago on Friday, we have a follow the player. Chicago, Columbus, Montreal, Tampa Bay, Ottawa. Chicago, Columbus, Montreal, Tampa Bay, Ottawa. If you know the player, put it in the comments. We'll pin you if you get it right and shout you out on the show in the next one. So good luck.
All right. That's it for today's episode. As Ian mentioned, there will be some mailbag questions that we carry over till next week. Also, do not forget to check out the show notes for a link to the Google Doc. It'll be both on the audio and in the YouTube show notes. And just make sure that you are accounted for if you did enter the contest. In the meantime, we will be back to our regular schedule as of next week. So you will see us Monday to Friday all over again. Make sure you're subscribed to this podcast wherever you get your podcast, as well as on YouTube. You can find us all over social media at Locked On Canadiens. We're Locked On Canadiens on TikTok. We're Locked On Canadiens on Instagram. We are Locked On Canadiens at Gmail. We're just everywhere at Locked On Canadiens. You'll find me at The Active Stick. You'll find Ian at Maybe It's Ian. We want to thank everyone so much for listening, and we will talk to you on Monday.